trend for the next couple days, right?
Oh yes, it's only going to get colder. And yesterday we had a front lifting, and that is why we got some breaks here and there, and temperatures actually warmed up. But now we're starting to cool down. It is mostly dry if your commute takes you through Broward in the Florida Keys. Not dry around northern and central Florida, but we do have a line of freezing rain and snow around parts of North Florida. Jacksonville getting some freezing rain there, but a lot of snow fell around the panhandle of Florida, and the snow line stretches through the mid-Atlantic states into the Carolinas at this hour. A lot of advisories. There are winter storm warnings still in place for northern Florida. Extreme cold weather warnings that extend through Louisiana and eastern Texas, with a very rare blizzard warning. First time ever yesterday for parts of Texas and Louisiana. But closer to home, we have visibility issues. And right now, a dense fog advisory is in effect for interior Dade, Broward through 8 o'clock. And for the Bayside into the Gulf of Mexico, it's been extended to run through 7 o'clock this morning. More details on your local weather coming up in a few minutes. Good morning, South Florida. We are waking up to mostly cloudy skies across the region, but some other areas have seen clearing and temperatures have gone down. So here's a look at the local storm tracking radar to show you it's mostly dry, and the majority of the wet weather is over northern and central Florida at this point. But we do have fog forming out there, and it's becoming quite dense. So if your commute takes you around town, please proceed with caution. Dense fog advisory for interior portions through 8 o'clock this morning. We also have marine fog into the Florida Keys, and this advisory was now extended until 7 o'clock in the morning. So here's a look at the big view. There's a winter storm moving through parts of Florida and the mid-Atlantic states, where there's freezing rain and snow still falling. And right now, Jacksonville getting some freezing rain. And here are some totals from this significant winter storm in Milton, Florida. 8.80 inches of snow. And in Oriole Beach, about 8 inches, Bellevue 8 inches, and better than 5.5 for Compass Lake. Closer to home, no snow in Florida, but it's cooled down for sure. 58 in Miami, in the 60s across the Keys, with a northerly wind in place. Now, our forecast does call for a cold front to hover nearby. So today will actually look a bit dreary at times, and we will have mostly cloudy skies, showers possible in the forecast. Not a washout by any means, but heading into tomorrow, we're going to have clouds holding, morning showers in the works, and then we're going to get pretty much colder air filtering in for our Friday, with lows in the low 50s, and then on Saturday morning in the 40s. Your boating forecast has a small craft advisory in effect, high rip current risk at area beaches, north winds 10 to 25 knots, frequent gusts up to 30 possible. Biscayne Bay, moderate chop. Florida Keys turning rough here. And there's a small craft advisory in effect as well for UCs beyond the reef building 2 to 10 feet. And the next tide cycle is going to be low tide at 8:05 in Fort Lauderdale. So highs today will be in the 60s. Yesterday we made it to the upper 70s. Different story today. So gray, gloomy, showers at times. It's also going to be gusty. And then tonight, cloudy skies, but rain returns late. Temperatures in the 60s, but we're going to have some 50s in there too. Your extended outlook does call for chillier air to arrive by Friday, and we're going to feel it through the upcoming weekend. That's your 7 on 7 forecast. 7 News Today in Florida. We'll be right back. Good morning, Tavares. Olivia, South Florida. We have partly cloudy, mostly clear skies here, but the bulk of the rain, that is around northern and central Florida, and there's a mix of basically freezing rain and snow still over northern sections of the state. Here in South Florida, there's a chance of seeing showers today. Most of the activity was confined north of Alligator Alley yesterday, so we got enough breaks to actually warm up. But we have a system moving through the state, so winds have turned out of the north, and that's why it's also cooler as a result. We do have a dense fog advisory for interior portions of Dade and Broward, the Bayside into into the Gulf of Mexico in the Florida Keys because fog has become more dense today. Visibility has gone down, and in Miami to less than 2 miles. Right now, it is 59 in Lauderdale by the Sea, 57 in Coral Springs. Same for Davie and Plantation, Miami-Dade, 58 in Hialeah to 59 in Coral Gables. We head south, 64 in Homestead, and the Florida Keys in the 60s at this time. Your full forecast coming up in a few minutes. Across South Florida, luckily it's mostly dry, but there's a chance of seeing shower activity today. So make sure that you have the rain gear with you as well. But we're also going to get a building breeze out of the north, so it'll be a generally cool one out there. So also head out with a sweater or jacket. There's a dense fog advisory for interior Dade and Broward. That one's going to run through 8 o'clock this morning. There's also a dense marine fog advisory in effect for the Bayside and Gulf of Mexico, Gulf Shore waters, and that one's going to run at least through 7 o'clock this morning. The fog has become more dense. Certainly saw it on my way in to work. Now, around Central Florida, that's where we have consistent rain. Then it changes over to freezing rain and some snow over northern portions of the state. Into Jacksonville, the Carolinas, getting a good amount of snow, especially along the coastline. But there were significant totals around the Panhandle yesterday and around Milton, 80 inches of snow. Oriole Beach at about 8 inches. Same for Bellevue. And here in South Florida, dealing with a cool down, 58 in Fort Lauderdale, in the 60s across the Keys with a northerly wind between 7 to 12 miles per hour. We're going to have a dreary looking day, staying cool in the 60s this time around. And then on Thursday, rain showers are definitely in the forecast in the morning with clouds holding across the region. It won't be until Friday when we start to see more sunshine across South Florida and chillier air filtering in. Your boating forecast right now has a small craft advisory in effect. High rip current risk at area beaches, seas building 4 to 8 feet up to 10 feet in the Gulf Stream. Biscayne Bay at a moderate chop, turning rough in the Keys with an advisory as well in effect. And the next tide cycle, that is going to be low tide at 8:05 in Fort Lauderdale, 8:14 for you in Miami. So for today, gray and gloomy, showers at times, highs in the mid to upper 60s. Tonight, 60s and 50s with rain returning late. So count on rain on our Thursday. Chilly air in the low 50s to start off on Friday. 40s widespread on Saturday. And that's your 7 on 7 forecast.
Time now for Fast Track Traffic.
Good morning, South Florida.
Couldn't even tell where the buildings were in downtown Miami. So we know that the fog is becoming quite dense. So please be extra cautious. We have, aside from the fog, plenty of cloud cover around today. And on the radar, it's mostly dry, but we will have a chance of seeing some showers today. Most of them right now located near the lake region into Central Florida. But around interior areas, there will be a fog advisory through 8 o'clock this morning. For the Florida Keys, that includes the Bayside and Gulf through 7 a.m. And here's the big view to show you that we have the rain changing over to freezing rain and snow over parts of northern Florida. But there's a good swath of snow still impacting the Carolinas as we speak, and there were some significant totals since last night around the Panhandle with about 8 8/10 of an inch of rain, 8 inches in Bellevue. Closer to home, temperatures are in the 50s around mainland locations, 60s around the Florida Keys with a northerly wind in place. But I'll be back with a whole lot more in your local forecast and what we can expect in the days ahead in about 15 minutes.
Now at 6, President Donald Trump enforcing.
Absolutely. And yesterday, there was a blizzard warning for the first time ever for parts of Louisiana and eastern Texas. So incredible. And yes, a lot of snow fell across the Gulf Coast states, even around the panhandle of Florida. Closer to home, we're waking up to cooler conditions, so nothing as significant as other parts of the country. In Miami, it's 58, 66 in Key West, with the wind out of the north 7 to 13 miles per hour. Humidity levels are still high, so it's letting us know that there's moisture in the air for rain, and we will see some showers out there today. The bulk of the activity now from the lake region northward into Jacksonville, but across Broward County, we've seen some sprinkles move through parts of Dania Beach and Fort Lauderdale, off the coast and fizzled. Now around interior locations, we've had the formation of fog, and it's rather dense. So through 8 o'clock this morning, an advisory will be in place. Now for the Florida Keys, there's an advisory through 7 a.m. for the Bayside and Gulf of Mexico. But here's a look at satellite imagery put together with radar to show you that the rain is changing over to freezing rain and snow. There's freezing rain around Jacksonville now and St. Augustine, but the snow is clipping the coastline of the Carolinas. But take a look at all of the winter weather advisories that are in place across the deep south. And there's still a winter storm warning for the Panhandle, extreme cold weather warning that extends through Louisiana and eastern Texas as we speak. And here's a look at the snowy state of Florida. Milton, better than 8.5 inches of snow from last night. Oriole Beach at 8 inches, same for Bellevue. Our forecast calls for rain to flow in. Winter storm will be coming to an end very soon. We'll have cooler temperatures behind this front that we've had nearby for today. Small craft advisories in effect. Threat of occurrence high area beaches, seas building 4 to 8 feet up to 10 feet in the Gulf Stream. For the Florida Keys, there's also a small craft advisory in place since coastal waters are turning choppy. And the next tide cycle is going to be low tide at 8:14 in Miami. So for today, gray and gloomy, showers at times, and highs this time around instead of the upper 70s will stay cool in the 60s, and tonight 60s and 50s under cloudy skies and wet weather returning. So we'll have a chance for rain all the way through Thursday, and then it gets even colder on Friday. Saturday, widespread 40s to start off. And that's your 7 on 7 forecast.
All right, Viv, ahead this morning, first responders in Texas taking a break to take advantage of the unusually.
Could tell the fog was starting to form, and it's quite dense right now, so there's an advisory in effect. We do have a front nearby, so rain is still flowing in, moisture still flowing into the state, and it's changing over to freezing rain and snow in some areas that stretch all the way through the Carolinas. But this winter storm is about to end very soon. But cold air is already starting to filter in and get into South Florida. And here's a look at the local storm tracking radar. We do have mostly dry weather underway, some sprinkles near Key Biscayne and around interior areas, just basically west of US 27 and Chrome Avenue, Dayton, Broward. That's where we have an advisory in effect through 8 o'clock this morning for the Bayside and Gulf in the Florida Keys. There's a dense marine fog advisory through 7 a.m. Visibility has dropped to less than a mile in Miami. Other areas as well, we're seeing poor visibility, so please proceed with caution. It is currently 59 in Hollywood, 57 in Plantation. At the airport, 58 in Hialeah. Heading south into the 50s, we have Homestead at 59, 60s for the Florida Keys. Your complete outlook coming up in a few minutes.
Time now for Fast Track Traffic.
Good morning, South Florida. If you're traveling
Clouds on the ground, and that's dense fog that has formed, and it's actually made its way towards metro and coastal areas. Visibility poor in spots. And on the radar, there's some rain around the straits. We've seen some sprinkles moving in, but the bulk of the rain still remains to the north early on. But around interior areas of Broward and Miami-Dade, there's a dense fog advisory that's going to run through 8 o'clock this morning for the Bayside and Gulf of Mexico and the Florida Keys through 7 a.m. And here's a look at the big view to show you that there's a winter storm that's coming to an end very soon. We have the rain changing over to freezing rain around northern parts of the state, swath of snow into the Carolinas right now, but there was significant snow around the state of Florida and Milton. Now we have an update. Better than 9.5 inches of rain, even in Molino, Pace 9 inches, Baker at 8.5 inches. And as far as our forecast is concerned, we're starting to cool down with a wind that's going to be increasing out of the north, and it is 59 in Miami, 66 for you in Key West, with a wind now up to 17 miles per hour in Key West. So we still have moisture flowing into the state. This winter storm will be coming to an end very soon, and as a result, the air is going to be pretty cool throughout today. So by 7 o'clock, look for 59, and we're going to be in the low 60s all the way through 5 p.m. So you'll need the sweaters and jackets. So cooler and cloudy with rain at times today. Heading into our Thursday, low forms nearby. So we're going to have rain on the backside, but still generally cool. And then on Friday, turning colder as the rain gets pushed away. And we're going to be waking up into the low 50s Friday, 40s on Saturday morning. Then we start to warm up for Sunday. Your boating forecast not ideal. High rip current risk at area beaches for swimmers. Small craft advisory through the Florida Keys since waters are turning rough. And the next tide cycle, that'll be low tide in the 8 o'clock hour for Miami and Fort Lauderdale. Highs today in the 60s. It'll be gray, gloomy, cloudy tonight with some periods of rain showers. And on your extended outlook, South Florida, get ready to sport around the layers for a few days because it's only going to get colder as we close out the week. And that's your 7 on 7 forecast.
This is a Fast Track Alert.
Good morning, South Florida. We're taking a look.
Good morning, South Florida. We're waking up to areas of fog, and it's also cool, but we're going to stay generally cloudy throughout today with the chance for some showers. The bulk of the rain still to the north of the area, but if your commute takes you around town, please slow down, watch your following distance, use your low beams. The fog is thicker out west, so that's why interior areas of Broward and Miami-Dade will remain under a dense fog advisory through 8 a.m. For the Bayside, Gulf of Mexico, around the Florida Keys, well, this advisory is going to run through 9 a.m. now, and it has been extended. Big view showing where we have a winter storm. It's starting to come to an end, but there's still a good amount of rain around central and north Florida. Coastal snow for the Carolinas. 59 in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, 62 degrees. Good morning to you over in Key West. You'll need a sweater jacket as well with the wind out of the north, and it will be increasing, turning gusty at times throughout today. These winds are going to be ranging between 8 to 18 miles per hour this morning. So we'll have cooler and cloudy conditions with times of rain today. Heading into tomorrow, low forms nearby. So we'll still have some rain coming in on the backside, and then it starts to clear out, and that means it's turning colder for Friday and Saturday. And as we look ahead into Sunday, it starts to warm up with the return of an ocean breeze. Small craft advisory in effect. Beach boating really not ideal today. Through the Keys, it's very rough right now with the next tide cycle. That's going to be low tide at 8:14 in Miami. Highs today in the 60s, gray, gloomy, showery with your evening going with cool conditions, 50s and 60s, but we're going to be in the low 50s by Friday morning, widespread 50s to start off on Saturday. That's your 7 on 7 forecast. Please don't go anywhere. 7 News Today in Florida. We'll be right back. Sure, northern sections of the state getting a very rare snow event, and South Florida, we're getting some cool air filtering in across the region, but we also have clouds around and some fog that's formed due to a front nearby. So the rain is still flowing into the state, but at least the winter storm will be coming to an end very soon. We're going to definitely have colder air filtering in gradually across South Florida, and right now it is looking mostly dry. Only the upper Florida Keys Keys, seeing a few drizzles here, but it will be showery from time to time. Now, if your commute takes you around interior areas, at least through 8 a.m., there will be a dense fog advisory in effect. For the Bayside and Gulf of Mexico in the Florida Keys, this one's going to run through 9 a.m. Visibility definitely very low in spots like downtown Miami, less than 4 miles. Right now, it is 59 in Lauderdale by the Sea, 56 in Plantation, Davie at the airport, 59, Hialeah, Opelika, Miami Lakes at 57. Then we head south, Homestead at 58, Florida Keys in the lower 60s, and wow, Key West, you've dropped down a few degrees, down to 62 at this time. Your complete outlook coming up in a few minutes.
This is a Fast Track Alert.
Good morning, South Florida. Taking
Breeze right now 59 in Miami and Fort Lauderdale, 60 in Key West, with the winds between 6 to 11 miles per hour, and they'll get gustier throughout today. Humidity levels are high, so we're going to also leave a chance of seeing showers. Now, most of the rain is confined to the north, but we have some shower activity brewing around the Straits of Florida, and now there's one shower moving through Weston, 595, and also through Sunrise at this hour. So there's going to be the possibility of some rain today. Now, around interior areas, we have visibility issues. So a dense fog advisory is in effect for Dade and Broward, and this one's going to run through 8 a.m. The one for the Bayside and Gulf of Mexico will run through 9 a.m. Now, the big view showing where the deepest moisture is located, and that's into Central and North Florida. Luckily, the freezing rain and snow starting to come to an end, but it's still clipping the coastline of the Carolinas. But take a look at the amount of winter weather alerts in place for the deep south. There's a winter storm warning still for northern sections of the state, extreme cold weather warning from parts of Pensacola all the way through Houston at this time. And yesterday, first time ever, a blizzard warning was issued for parts of Louisiana. But here's a look at the totals for northern Florida. In Milton, almost 10 inches of snow. In Pace at 9 inches. So here's a look at what we can expect. Rain flowing in. The winter storm is coming to an end. We're going to get the northerly flow. That's why we're cooling down. And today we're going to stay stuck in the low 60s pretty much through 6 p.m. Your forecast calls for a small craft advisory to remain in effect as wind and seas continue to increase out of the north today. Florida Keys small craft advisory. Coastal waters here are rough. With the next tide cycle, that will be low tide 8:05 in Fort Lauderdale. So highs today in the 60s. We'll have gray and gloomy skies, showers at times tonight. More rain returns late. We'll have some 50s, lower 60s all around, with your extended outlook calling for colder air to filter in Friday and widespread 40s to start off on Saturday. Metro 7 on 7 forecast.
This is a Fast Track Alert.
Good morning, South.
Clouds and some wet weather occasionally. However, we're going to start to cool down gradually. Clouds, times of rain expected at least through tomorrow, with highs struggling to hit 70 degrees at least through Saturday, and lows are likely going to be in the 40s by Saturday morning. So here's a look at the local storm tracking radar. Mostly dry weather underway if it takes you through Broward County, though this is where we have some shower activity along 595 in Weston, and it's going to approach Sunrise soon. But Pompano Beach dealing with some activity between the Turnpike and A1A. As we take a look at interior locations, the fog advisory that was in place was allowed to be expired, but the one for the Bayside and into the Gulf will run through 9 a.m. But here's a look at the winter storm that provided for that winter wonderland in northern Florida. It's starting to come to an end, just some leftover light snows around I-10, but the snow still lingering along coastal areas of the Carolinas. More details on your local weather coming up in a few minutes.
President Trump completing promises from his campaign this morning. Deportations topping his agenda.
And his plan.
Temperatures freezing to the north, while Pensacola reporting 18 degrees, 26 degrees in Tallahassee to 41 in Orlando. Here at home, we are in the upper 50s. And now Key West, you are down to 58 degrees, 57 in Miami, including Fort Lauderdale. And Key West likely already hit the high for the day, believe it or not, earlier this morning when you were in the upper 60s. So temperatures have continued to go down. Around interior areas, also in the 50s. Hialeah, 57, 59 in Homestead, with temperatures running a good 6 degrees cooler at this time versus yesterday. And we will also have a building breeze out of the northwest, and it'll get gustier today, 12 to 16 miles per hour. We have a gust of 22 miles per hour in Miami, and we will have very moist environment for us to see some showers. And right now around Broward County, we actually have some rain that's impacting your commute in Sunrise, Weston, and 595. We move on into Miami-Dade, mostly dry. Florida Keys, dry for now, with a big view showing where that winter storm is located, and it's coming to an end. There's still some snow clipping the coastline of the Carolinas, but I wanted to show you the big view because it's been cold, extremely cold around most of the country. And here in South Florida, we will remain the warmest on the map at 57, while Atlanta is at 14 degrees. There's a lot of winter weather advisories for the deep south, and that extends into Houston. So we will have a dreary looking day across the region with some showers at times. Rain does return tonight into tomorrow with a low forming near, though we'll have clouds around, morning shower activity. And then on Friday, we will have more sunshine in the forecast. Your boating outlook doesn't look the best. Small craft advisory through the Keys. It's very rough around coastal waters with the next tide cycle, low tide at 8:05 in Fort Lauderdale. Highs today in the 60s, gray, gloomy. Tonight, 50s and 60s again, with your extended outlook calling for the lower 50s to start off on Friday. High temperatures in the low 60s, and then Saturday lows probably in the widespread 40s. Metro 7 on 7 forecast.
This is a Fast Track Alert.
Good morning, South Florida. We're taking a look right now in Miami-Dade on I-95 northbound. The ramp to northwest
Continues to increase, turning gusty across South Florida. So it's going to be much cooler overall throughout today as there's a front nearby. Now, here's a look at temperatures throughout the day. At around 9 o'clock, looking at 58 degrees in Miami, but staying in the low 60s all the way through 7 p.m. Our forecast calls for cooler, cloudy conditions with rain at times today. And then we move into tomorrow. Low pressure forms nearby, and that means we're going to see showers moving in from the backside. And then Friday rolls around, temperatures drop into the low 50s, by Saturday in the 40s as the rain comes to an end. And finally, this system gets enough of a push to completely clear, and we'll have more sunshine in the works. But by Sunday, it starts to warm up once again, since we will get a breeze off the ocean. Small craft advisory in effect, seas building 4 to 8 feet up to 10 feet in the Gulf Stream. Florida Keys, we have an advisory as well, 25 knot winds possible, with a low tide happening at 8:44 in Key West. Highs today, lows in the lows, mid-60s, gray and gloomy. Tonight, some rain around late with temperatures in the 50s and 60s, but it's only going to get colder as we close out the week. Metro 7 on 7 forecast.
This is a Fast Track Alert.
Good morning, South Florida. We're taking a look right now in Miami-Dade along I-95 on the off-ramp to Northwest 120.
On the radar, there's some rain around Alligator Alley, but it is mostly dry if it takes you through Broward, Dade, and the Florida Keys. However, today there's a chance for some shower activity. Visibility isn't a concern any longer around mainland South Florida, but still around the Bayside and Gulf of Mexico. So dense marine fog advisory will run through 9 a.m. And here's a good view of the winter storm that provided for the winter wonderland around northern Florida. And as far as the snow is concerned, it is starting to wind down along the coastline of the Carolinas. We still have moisture into central Florida and clouds lagging behind. Now here's a look at temperatures to get you out the door right now. 57 in Miami and Fort Lauderdale, 59 in Key Largo, 58 degrees in Key West. With the winds out of the northwest, 10 to 22 miles per hour. We have a wind gust of 33 miles per hour in Key West. So we know it will be a gusty, cool day across South Florida with lows in the low to mid 60s. So it's going to look dreary with some showers at times. Tomorrow, low pressure develops nearby. So we're going to see rain moving in on the backside. So clouds will hold. There will be a better chance in the morning. And then as we close out the week, skies will finally start to clear out. We'll see some sunshine, maybe a few spotty showers, but it will be chilly as lows will range in the lower 50s. And then as we look ahead into the upcoming weekend, it will be much colder on Saturday. Your boating forecast has a small craft advisory in effect. North winds 10 to 25 knots, frequent gusts up to 30 possible. Seas building 4 to 8 feet higher in the Gulf Stream. For the Florida Keys, there's also an advisory with seas beyond the reef building 2 to 10 feet. Coastal waters are very rough. And the next tide cycle will be high tide at 146 in Fort Lauderdale, 215 in Miami. So for today, gray and gloomy, isolated showers, temperatures low to mid 60s, 65 is the forecast high for Miami. By tonight, we'll be in the low 60s, but a lot of areas will be in the 50s with some rain returning late. And on your extended outlook, South Florida, chilly air is on the way, and we'll be sporting around the sweaters or jackets through the weekend. That's your 7 on 7 forecast.
All right, still ahead on Today in Florida.
We're coming back with more news and weather, plus this, Kanye making headlines. Today in Florida's coming right back.
A little dreary out there, but at least not snowing here, Viv.
Not snowing and not as cold as northern sections of the state. So here's a look at your headlines. We'll have clouds and times of rain between today and tomorrow, and high temperatures are going to be struggling to hit 70 degrees at least through Saturday, and lows will likely fall into the 40s come Saturday morning. And here's a look at the radar. Mostly dry weather underway, but there's a possibility of seeing a few showers. And right now it's mostly dry for your morning commute. Central Florida can't say the same into basically the I-4 corridor. But around northern Florida, the snow's coming to an end, but there's snow on the ground. And right now, looking at temperatures dipping down into the 50s. So they've continued to go down throughout the morning. And it is 54, believe it or not, in Lauderdale by the Sea. Also in Sunrise, Plantation and Davie down to 51. In Miami-Dade County, 55 in Miami Shores, 53 at the airport, and then heading south, 54 Cutler Bay, Palmetto Bay at this time. In the Florida Keys, it looks like we've already hit the high for the day because temperatures early on were in the upper 60s, and now Key West is at 57. Your complete outlook coming up in a few minutes. Florida waking up to periods of clouds and temperatures continuing to go down. And right now, if your commute takes you through Alligator Alley, parts of Palm Beach, that's where we have the majority of the wet weather. There's a chance for some rain showers today, but it does look like the winter storm is starting to come to an end. There's still some snow hugging the coastline of the Carolinas and Georgia as we speak, but there is snow on the ground over northern Florida. It's been a very, very impressive system producing a good amount of snow in Milton, about over 9.5 inches of snow, in Pace at 9 inches, and in Oriole Beach at 8 inches. As far as our forecast is concerned, temperatures have continued to go down because of a very strong wind out of the north due to a front that's been nearby. And it is 51 right now in Fort Lauderdale, 53 in Miami, and Key West at one point you were in the 60s. You've gone down to 57 degrees. The wind increasing, sustained between 15 to 24 miles per hour. We have a gust of 29 in Fort Lauderdale to 39 in Key West. So it will look Very dreary today with a chance of shower activity. Tomorrow, low pressure develops nearby, so we're going to also see rain showers, but the best chance will be in the morning. Then this system gets enough of a push to clear, so more sunshine in the works for Friday, and temperatures will go down into the low 50s. Your boating forecast has a small craft advisory in effect due to the wind and seas through the Keys. It is very rough, with the next tide cycle being high tide at 3:29 in Key West. So for today, we'll have highs in the 60s. It'll be gray, gloomy. Tonight, we'll have temperatures in the 50s and 60s, with your extended outlook calling for chilly air to arrive on Friday and even Saturday, with possible lows in the 40s. That's your 7-on-7 forecast. Widespread 40s, potentially around mainland South Florida on Saturday. So overall, we're going to be needing the extra layers. As far as sunshine is concerned, it looks like by Friday we'll start to see more of it. Your boating forecast has a small craft advisory in effect. North winds 10 to 25 knots, frequent gusts up to 30 possible. Seas have increased 4 to 8 feet higher in the Gulf Stream. Florida Keys, there's also an advisory here with a strong wind out of the northeast today, and coastal waters are very rough. We're going to have high tide happening at 2:15 in Miami, 3:29 in Key West, with highs today remaining in the 60s, mid to upper 60s. By tonight, 50s and 60s will stay on the chilly side for a few days, and then we'll start to warm up by Sunday. And that's your 7-on-7 forecast.
All right, everyone is finding ways to stay warm in Texas, including this little guy, the state's newest and cutest resident. The Houston Zoo sharing video.
Getting a good amount of snow, and that snow continues on the ground since it's so cold. And here in South Florida, we're getting our own dose of chilly weather, South Florida style. We have a lot of cloud cover. We have a building breeze out of the north, so it's helped temperatures actually drop down into the widespread 50s. Where we do have some rain, that's around parts of the lake region and Palm Beach County. So there's a chance of seeing some showers. So it's going to be a very cool day overall. Wow, look at Fort Lauderdale, down to 51, 53 in Miami, and it's 57 in Key Largo and Key West, with the wind increasing out of the northwest between 15 to 22 miles per hour sustained, consistent winds. And then we have gusts that are in the 30s and 40s. Key West, you have a wind gust of 41 miles per hour. So that's really helped bring down temperatures. So we still have some moisture flowing into the state due to a front nearby, but the winter storm is definitely coming to an end. We have just some snow covering coastal areas of the Carolinas, but throughout today, we're definitely going to be very cool. It's just going to look very dreary. Heading into tomorrow, low forms nearby, so we're going to see some rain showers, and the best chance will be early in the day. And then this system gets enough of a push to clear on Friday. So we will have sunshine returning to the forecast, but it will be chilly to start off, also in the low 50s. We have a small craft advisory in effect. Risk of rip currents high, area beaches, seas building 4 to 8 feet higher in the Gulf Stream. It is very rough in the Keys, with an advisory in effect. And the next tide cycle is going to be high tide at 2:15 in Miami, 3:29 in Key West. So highs today in the low to mid 60s. By tonight, 50s and 60s, cloudy skies. It does look like we'll have some rain returning late. And on your extended outlook, South Florida, we'll finish off the week chilly, start off the weekend with more of the same, with temperatures actually dropping down into potentially the widespread 40s. That's your 7-on-7 forecast.
All right, watching Wall Street now. The Dow is up 74 points at 44,101. The Nasdaq is up 203 at around 19,900.